about to head out the door for another race. In this video, I'm going to show you the Hammock Hauler. It's the endurance race at my local trail, San Felasco. There's a 30-mile option and a 60-mile option. This is the race that I did last year where I got a bunch of moss caught in my cassette and I lost like 30 seconds and had to pass for like 45 minutes. So hopefully today goes better. And so I'm going to mount the GoPro on the front of the handlebars again for this one. That's the easiest for me for racing. And it's going to be a nice day. If you want a cold front to come through in Florida, hold a bike race. Every single race this year, a cold front has come through the day before. It's about 40 degrees out right now. Not going to get very warm today, so it should be great weather for a bike race. Let's go. I'm going to do a voiceover for a lot of this video because, as you'll see later on in the race, I ended up being by myself a lot. So rather than you seeing just a bunch of single track without anybody else and no racing action, I figured I'd do a voiceover. This was the absolute most racing action I saw all day. It was a fast start. I wasn't feeling great at this start. It was cold. I wasn't completely warmed up, but it was an exciting start. And you'll see coming up here, we're going to make a left and we funnel into the single track and had to slow way down. But I mean, it's full gas. For those of you who race, you know the starts are the worst, at least for me. I mean, this is when you just go from relaxing at the start line to just pinning it, and like your heart rate goes up to like 185. But this is where we slow down. So speaking of the start, so this was kind of funny. I didn't see the marathon group go off. So as I said at the beginning of the video, there were two races today. The marathon, which did 60 miles, and then this is the sprint, which did 30. So I sprinted the entire race. No, I'm just kidding. So I didn't see the marathoners go off, and I almost missed the start. Like I thought the marathoners were lined up, and then I noticed the number plates were white and not yellow, and I was like, oh shoot, this is my race. And I was at my car just kind of grabbing my stuff, taking off my jacket, all that, and I realized that I was about to start. So I didn't get in the front end of the start. No, what I did was I probably should have done this, but I kind of got off to the side you saw there and just funneled my way in after a couple rows went off. So my bad. I should have gotten to the start line like 5 minutes earlier and gotten up to the front. So as you can see here, I got behind a group of people and I was going at a pretty relaxed pace. I didn't want to be a jerk and just try to come around someone, so I was looking for a good opportunity to pass. And I found some, but the lead group was just kind of pulling away. They weren't that far in front, so, you know, no excuses. But you'll see coming up pretty soon I was able to start getting some passes in, and it ended up being okay. You know, the first lap, I still had a pretty fast first lap, but again, I had to work a little hard to catch up to the group. So I had passed some people back there in the woods that I didn't get on the video, and then here I was able to start passing more people because it was more open. If you're familiar with San Felasco, this is the power line hill right in front of us. I mean, you can't really see on the GoPro. That's a pretty steep hill up in front of us, but we turned left before we started going up the big climb. Some pretty good elevation change. In fact, as I'm talking, I'm going to pull out my phone and see the total elevation gain for this ride. So this is where I was able to pass some people. In fact, there's a buddy of mine in this group. I didn't even know he was in the group. I was just in the zone, just trying to get ahead and pass. But this was a group that contained, like I said, a friend of mine and another guy I knew. And they ended up like being pretty close behind me most of the race until the third lap. I felt really good the third lap. So looking at my Strava, I had 1,512 feet of climbing for this race. I'll tell you the total time at the end. So this is my group. I just passed my buddy there on the left, my buddy Gabe, the guy I gravel ride with and do some mountain biking with. And I had another friend of mine on my wheel, Jason, In fact, he's the guy, if you watch the video, of when I took the Strava KOM with the hurricane force winds as a tailwind. He ended up getting the KOM back. He's a super strong rider, but he was on my wheel. We're kind of starting a climb here. You can't really tell on the GoPro, but there's this field section where you get some climbing in. Now we're at the top of that climb, but I think he passed me, so he's ahead of me now, and I tried to stay on his wheel, and he was moving. In fact, he won his class, so he rode a super strong race. He's actually not much of a mountain biker. He's more of a road, I think actually more of a gravel rider. I don't think he road rides, but he was flying on these open sections. He actually crashed a couple times because the trail was fairly slippery in the first lap. The trail was actually in great shape, but there were some slippery roots. But the problem I had, it seems like every race there's some kind of challenge, some kind of problem you got to overcome. And the problem I had on this race was my contacts blurred up so bad the first lap. I literally could barely see the roots. And so I was crawling around some of the corners. And this is my hometown track, so I should have been just whipping around the corners. I felt so clumsy. And they ended up getting better throughout the race, but I don't know if it was just the cold. I think that's what it was. But I normally don't have that problem. But man, for those of you who wear contacts, you know that every once in a while they just blur up. And I literally debated like pulling over and pulling them out of my eyes because I don't have a really strong prescription. So I could have ridden without them. It would have been better. But, you know, it is what it is. So I'm still in the first lap. And this, like I said, the trail conditions, even though the routes were just a little bit slippery at the beginning because we had a lot of rain the day before. It's funny, like I said at the beginning of the video, we've had a cold front come through before like every bike event this year. Whether it's just like like the San Felasco or the Croon ride where it's not really a race, it's just more of an event, or bike races. I mean, we had a cold front come through, so I'm just about done with the first lap. This is the last little bit of single track. I'll pop out here into the open and go through the tape, go into the timing sensor. And then that's the end of the first lap. So what I did was I just got kind of like various parts of this ride. And this is a 10-mile lap. So 3 laps. It was slightly more than 10 miles, but a really good course. So this is another group. Like I said, I did not see very many people this entire race. It was the loneliest race I've ever done. So there was just not much like, I was either ahead of a group or the lead group was in front of me and I couldn't catch them. So my buddy that I passed there near the beginning that I talked about, so he's in a group of like 4 or 5 behind me, and I kept seeing them the second lap. And I did some gel. I get like the Hammer Nutrition, the Hammer gel, and I put it in a little flask, and I did some of that the second lap and ended up feeling really good the first or the last lap. So this is a trail called Tongue Nut. It's named after a tree, the Tongue Nut tree, and this is probably one of my favorite sections of San Felasco. In fact, if you watch my videos of doing my Project DC time trial course, this is part of it, although I go the other way on that time trial course. But this has just some of the best flow at San Felasco. San Felasco is not really known for flow. There's a lot of routes. In fact, there's a lot more routes than you can really see in a GoPro video. It's just you just can't see it. But it's a really good section of trail, and you can see the weather was just spectacular. It was honestly a bit chilly at the beginning. It was about 44 degrees when I was warming up, and it was about that on the start line. And you know, I just wore a base layer and some arm warmers, and I wore those Sirocco gloves that I showed in that Sirocco clothing video. They were great. So I was a bit chilly the first 5 or 10 minutes, but then it warmed up to about 50 degrees, and 50 to 60 is kind of like the ideal temperature range for a fast race. And you know, it's just, you don't sweat a whole lot, but it's not too cold, so it was really nice. Still on tongue nut. And this is I just showed different sections of tongue nut, and like I said, a lot of rain the day before. But last year it was crazy, like how the weather patterns are the same. The day before this race last year, we had a massive amount of rain. In fact, I thought they weren't going to be able to have the race. It poured. But this trail system dries out so fast. In fact, like I said, the roots are slippery the first lap. After that, trail's perfect. In fact, when you run a bunch of tires over trails that are damp like this, it just packs it down and makes it fast. So yeah, really, really good conditions for this race. And as I mentioned, I'm just kind of chilling by myself at this point. It was one of those races. I was glad I could see that group behind me. Like, it gave me something to work towards when I was riding, but you know, just to kind of stay away from that group. So I'm still on the second lap. As I mentioned, it was the third lap where I really felt good. My third lap is faster than my second lap. My first lap was the fastest, just because, you know, you're passing people, and just, you know, once you pass, you don't want to slow down. You want to keep it up and, you know, stay away from the people that you pass. But you know, it was a race where, you know, when you feel good at the end of the race, it's a good race, no matter how you placed. So I know a lot of you are watching my Project DC video series, where I am trying to see if a downcountry bike with race wheels will be as fast as a cross-country bike. And I rode the Niner on this race, the cross-country bike. It's a Niner RKT9 RDO, and it's a bike that I've had for a while. It's like 3.5 years old, but it's a great bike. And the reason that I rode it, if you didn't see that YouTube short that I made a week before this race, or a few days before this race, for two reasons I decided to ride the cross-country bike. One is the time trial results. I don't know if you could see it in the video or where it is, but I hit a diagonal route on one of these sections right here. In fact, I think I had just hit it. You can't see it in the video. Like, the GoPro footage is so stable that you couldn't see it, but it was right back there. I hit a diagonal route. I almost hit the deck. It took my front tire quickly. All right, so now I'm on the third lap, starting the third lap. I'm going to bring up the volume here for a minute of the race.
Last lap. Last lap. Feel good. I feel good. I feel great. I feel wonderful. What movie is that from? I feel good. I feel great. I feel wonderful. I feel good. I feel great. I feel wonderful.
All right, so we'll do something fun here. I'll send a free pair of Tifosi glasses to the first person who emails me at the email address on the screen what movie that was from, that I was just quoting, where I said, I feel good, I feel great, I feel wonderful. So, yeah, free pair of Tifosis. First person that can tell me what movie that is from, email me. First email that comes through gets it right, you will get a free pair of Tifosi glasses. So this is, you know, you're talking to yourself at this point, right? There's nobody else to talk to. You're telling yourself you feel good. You're telling yourself you feel fast. You just kind of are encouraging yourself. You know, I didn't feel like I was just at my limit on this race, which is good, except for the start. That was a hard start. Other than that, I just felt like I was in the right zone, right? I mean, I my fitness is pretty decent right now, and I probably could have pushed it a little bit harder, but you just never know. I think I was in my sweet spot, so I'm happy with my race results. I ended up getting second in my class, which I was happy with. The guy who beat me by like several minutes, so he was flying. He was probably in that first group that was pulling away when I was passing people, but he rode so strong that I probably couldn't have kept up with him. In fact, I know I couldn't, because my buddy who I was riding with near the beginning, and he pulled away, he was riding strong. I couldn't stay with him, so I was happy with my result. I think I'm coming up to a spot where I hit my bar on the tree, and it's a spot that's got a really, right here, boom, I hit my left handlebar on the tree. Another place where I almost went down. So yeah, back to what I was saying about my bike. So I'm on the Niner RKT9. 2 reasons. I didn't finish that sentence, got distracted. 2 reasons I rode this. The time trial results are favoring the Niner for racing, and also, as I mentioned in that YouTube short, I'm having a problem on the spur with the seat post slipping, and I think I've resolved it. I did contact the awesome guys at Transition, which are just so good to work with. Transition's such a good company, but they told me a couple things to try, and I think it's going to work, but I just didn't want to chance it. I could not afford pulling off and raising a seat post a couple times on a race like this. This is just my proven steed, right? I mean, this Niner RKT9 RDO is such a good race bike, such a great pedaling platform, super quick, super agile. I mentioned before, the geometry is getting a little dated, but I really, really like this bike. In this course, it's just so fast. All right, that's gonna really do it. I'm coming in from the last lap. So as I mentioned before, I ended up with second place in my class. Total ride time 2 hours and 14 minutes. Total distance 30.5 miles. As I mentioned, 1,512 feet of elevation gain for this race. Hope you enjoyed it. I will catch you in the next video. Cheers, everyone. Thanks for watching.